Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining today's call. My name is Deepak, and I'm a tax code advisor. And today we are going to talk about how to set up a home based childcare business. Now, there are three ways to do this business. One way is obviously you can buy a franchise from somebody else, but obviously that comes with a cost. They will charge you a franchise fees, they might charge you marketing fees, they might charge you a piece of revenue that you're generating, and that can actually cut into your profits. Maybe some of you guys don't like that. Second model is obviously you can license a business from somebody else. Maybe you know a business owner who is running a successful childcare business, and you go to them and you say, look, I'm willing to pay you some amount. Would you license this business model? Which simply means they are, maybe they will give you the name, or maybe they give you training, or maybe they will just sit down with you and explain to you how they run the business. So it's like a more practical, hands-on approach. You can learn from them. So that's the second one. And third one is you set one up on your own. So those are three basic ways to set up. But today I'm going to more focus on this third one. That means how do you do it on your own without spending a lot of money, doing it properly, avoiding some of the risks that are associated with this business, some of the challenges that you might deal with when you are working on this business. So we're going to talk about all of that stuff. And at the end of the call, I'll be happy to take your questions as well. So be ready for that. Now, childcare business is a very good business. Let's say if you're taking care of 10 kids in your home, and maybe you're charging, let's say, $1,000 per child, that's $10,000 a month income. So I want to ask you, what does your mortgage look like right now? What does your rent look like if you're renting that property today? If you can convert that cost into revenue, that's a wonderful strategy. Wouldn't you agree? So I think it's a good business, and there's a great need for it too, because more and more people are working. And I know some of you guys are probably thinking, hey Deepak, what about work from home? Trust me, I talk to clients every single day, and working from home and taking care of the kids at the same time, especially the smaller one, it just doesn't work out that well. And then on top of that, a lot of companies are asking their employees to come back to work. So it's not really purely work from home either. So I think there's a lot of opportunity in this field. So look around in your community, how many childcare centers are there and how much they're charging. This will kind of give you an idea. Or better yet, ask parents. If you know some people in your community who have smaller kids, maybe 1-year-old, 2-year-old, 3-year-old, ask them, hey, where are you sending your kids for childcare? Are you looking for one? Just ask that question, and you'll be surprised how many people are looking for a great childcare center. So I like the business model. Another reason I like this business model is that it's easy to exit. Meaning, let's say you do this for 6 months or a year or 2 years, and you realize this is not for me. Well, you did not rent another place, you did not buy a lot of equipment, you did not have any capital expenditure. Yeah, you'll have some cost here and there, but more than likely you have already recouped all that cost. So it's easy to exit when you want to close the business down. So that's another reason why I like it. Another reason I like this business is because you're able to take advantage of all kind of tax reductions that you were not able to do that before. If you were a W-2 employee, or maybe your spouse is a W-2 employee, you did not have access to that. So what I'm talking about. So let's assume if you have a house that is costing you $4,000 in a mortgage, or maybe you're renting a place that is costing you $4,000. Now add insurance, property taxes, all the expenses, let's say $5,000. And you use half of that space for childcare. Now you're able to write off the half of that cost as a business expense. You're not able to do that before. You're able to set up a defined benefit plan for yourself. You can set up 401k, put $50,000, $60,000 into it every single year. You're able to write off travel. You're able to write off some educational expenses, maybe even uniform, maybe sometimes meals. It just opens door for so many tax deductions that you did not have access to before. Maybe you have a car that you use, maybe you go out to meet people, so you can also write off your gas. So that's why I love it. It's just bonus after bonus. More importantly, maybe you want to plan for your kids' education. Trust me, business can help you do that as well. So there are a lot of reasons why you want to do it this way. So I think you're probably convinced. So it makes good amount of money. It has a lot of benefits. On top of all of that, I like it because whether you have this business or not, you still have expenses. You have expenses, for example, your mortgage. Whether you have a business or not, you're still going to pay your mortgage or rent. You're still going to pay for your electric, for your water, for your internet. You're still going to pay your property taxes. You're still going to pay for landscaping. All of those expenses are there, but they're not making you any money. By having a business from your home, you're able to convert all of those expenses and write off all of those expenses as part of your business, reducing your taxable income. So it's a wonderful strategy to build wealth. Now, like I said, there are business models out there where you can spend $40, $50, $60,000 to set one up. But do you really have to do that? Maybe not. And even if you do set those up, chances are there's still additional costs. I'll give you an example. Let's say you buy a franchise. If you buy a franchise, chances are they're going to charge you a franchise fees. They're going to charge you marketing fees. They're going to charge you some sort of profit share from or sometimes even revenue share, depending upon which franchise you buy. So those are all a bunch of expensive costs. I mean, this thing could be costing you $40,000, $50,000 a year. Similar with licensing, although I like licensing a little bit better from a cost perspective, but still they're expensive. Third option is you can just learn how to do business on your own. It might take you a little bit longer. It might, you might be a little bit hesitant in the beginning because you don't have somebody giving you some false motivation. So what do I mean by that? Typically what happens when you become a part of a group, you have a whole bunch of people who will continue to motivate you. And sometimes that motivation is good, sometimes it's bad. But when you're kind of doing things on your own, you don't have that group to motivate you. So that's one thing I do like being part of groups, but sometimes that can backfire as well. So in today's video, I'm going to talk about how do you set the home-based childcare business on your own. I'll tell you what kind of things you should prepare for before setting one up. I'll talk about how should you set up, and I'll talk about some of the common mistakes that I have seen people make, and they often come to me after they have made the mistake, and then it's very expensive to deal with those mistakes. So we'll be talking about all that stuff. So hang with me. Now, if you want to do a comprehensive consult on how to do childcare business, then we're available. It's all you do is you go to taxcodeadvisors.com and submit an inquiry that you want to do a comprehensive consult on childcare business, and then we work with you on one-on-one basis. And trust me, it's not $5,000, it's not $10,000, it's not $20,000. It's really cheap. Now, depending upon how much help do you need, so that's why we need that discovery call to figure it out. But usually anywhere between $1,500 to $2,500 is the most you're going to spend on it. What does that include? Well, it includes the entire planning. It includes your business plan. It includes your marketing strategies. It includes your tax strategies. It includes your retirement strategy. It includes, how should you set the company up? How should you set up a business plan? So it's basically like a business in a box, but it's just a template. At the end of the day, you take the template and you kind of amend it, because I don't know what city you live in. I don't know what state you are in. So depending upon which area you are in, you might have to do a little bit more digging to make it unique for you. So that's why I say it's kind of like a business in a box, but you take those ideas and then you tweak them to make it work for you. All right, so let's get started and let's talk about what do we need to do. So first thing first, well, you need a space to do a childcare center, right? What kind of space? How much space do you need? Well, one thing you want to pay attention to is that you need a dedicated space. That means that space should not be used by anybody else in your home. You don't want your other kids in the home be playing there. You don't want your bedroom there. You don't want your living room there. You don't want your kitchen there. It's a dedicated space for childcare. you need to set up a separate space in your home. That's number one. Number two is that you need to think about whether that space requires any kind of approval. Sometimes even from family members. Maybe you want to do this, maybe your kids don't agree with it, maybe your spouse don't agree with it. So start with that. Make sure everybody's on board, because you will have to provide an environment that is a business environment. Number two, you want to ask whether you own that space and you have a decision-making authority, or you need to get approval from somebody else. So let's say if you're renting, most landlords have a landlord policy. And when they have a landlord policy, it does not cover a home-based business. So if you're doing something without having the approval from the landlord, then that can be a big problem for you. Another thing you want to see is that there's a good chance that your rent will increase if you're trying to do this. Not a whole lot, but more than likely, if I was your landlord and it's going to cost me $200 a month extra in insurance, and you want to do this business, I would like you to take on that cost. So I would probably say, go ahead and do it, but if you pay for the insurance price. But if you go to your landlord and say, oh, I just want to do this, and not offer him anything in return, more than likely they will deny your request. So if you're renting, I would suggest that when you go to your landlord, clearly mention to them that, hey, I understand that there might be some additional costs associated with it, and we are happy to pay for those. So that way they're more likely to approve your request. Then there are zoning requirements. So depending upon which area you're trying to set up this business, I would pay attention to that. I'll probably go to city and I'll ask them whether this location is okay for home childcare center. In matter of fact, I'll do that before even talking to the landlord. I want to make sure that I'm able to do the business, because if the city says you can't do business there, then what's the point of talking to the landlord to begin with? But if you're a homeowner, then you can directly go to city and just get an approval from them. So that's fine. So that'll be my two things that I will first do. Next thing you might ask me, Deepak, how much space I need? Well, so this is a tricky one, because it depends upon which area you are in. Number might range anywhere between, let's say, I would say probably around 35 square foot per child. Some areas might be more, maybe 50 or 100, depending upon where you are. So let's just say 50 to be safe. So if you have 10 children in your home, then maybe 500 square foot of space should be sufficient for a home childcare center. Now, let's talk a little bit about how would you design that space. So first thing I would say is, you need to design that space into two parts. One is for kids to play, another place for them to take a nap. So keep that in mind, that you're taking care of the small children. And actually, that brings me to another point. It also depends on the age of a child. So let's say if you have toddlers, maybe a 6 months old or a year old or 2 years old, your jurisdiction might require you to have more space compared to bigger child. So keep that in mind, what age your kid's going to be. In matter of fact, you should specialize based on age. I think you'll have better success in this business if you're able to specialize based on the age. So, maybe you say, look, I'll take care of from 6 months to 6 years. Focus on that. For a home child care, that's really awesome. Or maybe 7-year-old, something like that. Or even smaller. Even parents will like it. So can you imagine if you have you're sending a kid to a home child care, and you have a 1-year-old, and there are all bunch of kids that are 7. Maybe you might not be comfortable doing that. But if you know that all the kids are going to be a similar age group, then I think you'll be more comfortable. From a marketing point of view itself, it makes sense. And sorry about the lighting. I'm doing this live, and I'm talking to you guys on one screen and trying to record this on the other screen. So after the call, I'm going to post this on YouTube and Facebook, so it's accessible to other people. So please excuse me about the lighting. And I'm not also using any special audio, some sort of microphone or anything like that. So hopefully the audio will be fine as well. Everybody can hear me okay though, right? Yeah, good. And this might be a good time to ask you guys to please help me out. Share this video with friends, family members, write your comments. If you have questions, put it in the comments and I'll try to answer those for you as well. And tell all the people in your childcare business, if they're in childcare business, I would love to talk to them. I can help them with the taxes. I can help them with finances. I can help them with their retirement. I can help them with their business itself. I mean, we because we do so many of these and been doing it for so long, I have lots of ideas to share with you. So I can add incredible benefits to your business. So anyhow, that's the sales pitch. But let's going on. So the lesser the age, the better it is for you. So keep that in mind. Like I said, the younger children, infants and toddlers, they might require more space. So keep that in mind as well. Now let's move on to training, and then we'll talk a little bit about the people who are going to be taking care of the kids. So there are a lot of training requirements. I think the first aid certification and CPR might be required in all areas, depending upon which state you are in. But I think even if your state doesn't require it, it'd probably be a good idea for you to be a CPR certified and first aid certified. So look for those two certifications. I think they will go a long way. Why, you may ask? Because you're taking care of kids. Who knows? They might bang their head, they might have a bruise, they might cut themselves, they might have an allergic reaction, they might choke on something. So it's important. In matter of fact, for example, I think in California they require that license to be renewed every 1 to 2 years. And once you tell me, let's say if you're coming to our comprehensive consult, we will try to do all that research for you and point you in all the right direction, that where do you need to go. So our goal is to save you time and get your center open as fast as possible. Okay, so those two are the bare minimum training. But let's say if I was the one sending my child, I would probably like you to have more training. I want you to maybe know, let's assume you're doing a sales pitch to me. So what are kind of things you can say to me that will impress me? You might say, hey, Mr. Sharma, I'm trained in child development or early child development or child development from 6 months to 2 years, some sort of specialty. What does that mean? Well, I'm trained to take care of your kids physically, emotionally. I can help them grow cognitively. I'm going to train them this, I'm going to teach them that. I think that helps a lot. Maybe you take some additional training on nutrition, especially for kids. That will look very good. You can you can even share that on social media, especially for marketing purposes. How do you take care of the kids? Child abuse, although that's really maybe not so much for marketing, but from an operation point of view, if you're running a business, you should be able to recognize if there is any kind of child abuse going on and how are you going to prevent that. So I think that can be very helpful. How do you make your kids go to sleep in a safe way? You don't want them to choke while they're sleeping, or put a blanket on their head or something like that. So if you're able to convince the parents that you are aware of all those things, that will look good. In matter of fact, maybe some states might even have a requirement for something like that. So I think that can go a long way. So that's where I would focus on the training aspect. Now, we will also provide in the consultation calls, we will also provide the training as well to you. So our consultation calls will typically be roughly about 8 to 10 hours, and they will be over the next few days, maybe like 3 days, 4 days, or 5 days, depending upon how fast you're able to catch up on stuff. We don't want to bombard you with everything on day one. And we'll walk you through a lot of things that are not learnable from some of these resources that are available from your state. So your state might say, hey, do the CPR training here, do the first aid training here, but your state not going to tell you how to structure your business. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. How do you take salary from your business? How do you protect yourself? How do you protect your assets? How do you take care of your retirement planning? How do you exit the business? How do you sell it? How do you, price your services? How do you take payments? What are the requirements for paying your employees or a contractor? They're not going to be talking about that. So in our comprehensive training, we will talk about all that. And then as you're earning from this business, how should you structure those earnings so you pay the minimum tax? So like I said, our program is roughly between $1,500 to $2,500, so it's not that expensive. But more than likely, once you engage with us, you are going to see significant savings, especially over the lifetime. I mean, the savings can be just huge. I cannot tell you a specific number because I don't know how big of a center you are, what kind of earnings you will have, but it's going to be huge. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the people who will be taking care of these kids. That's important. So keep a couple of things in mind. Number one, more than likely, everybody in your household will have to go through criminal background check, fingerprinting, and some states might even require that they clear child abuse registries. So they are set up in different states. They might have to clear those registries. So keep that in mind. Sometime I see that childcare centers will ask a volunteer, maybe a parent or maybe their family member, to help out. In most states, that might be illegal. So you need to verify that whether you can do that or not, because that can get you in a lot of trouble. So, because anybody taking care of kids, they have to pass all of these checks. Another silly mistake that I see sometimes, a business owner might ask their kid, their teenager, to take care of these children, and they're smart teenagers. Honestly speaking, they should be engaged in your business, but in what capacity? That's important. I like kids to be engaged in business because there are a lot of tax strategies around that. We can use business to pay for their education. We can get them discount on education. There are strategies, but the question is in what capacity. If you're using them in a capacity of a provider, that might not be a good idea, because in most states there are probably laws that the person has to be at least 18 or maybe 21 years of age to take care of the kids. So here you put a teenager, you could be in violation. Not just that your license will get suspended, your insurance might not even cover that loss either. And we'll talk more about the insurance just in a second. So keep in mind about doing all that stuff. And sometimes people think that all of this stuff that I'm talking about, how do you pick a space, how do you set that up, how do you set up the entity, how do you find the people who to take care of the kids, how do you market your business, and how do you get licensing, they think it's going to happen rather quickly. But in reality, it takes time. I would say at least plan 3 to 6 months to set everything up. So if you're really fast, 3 months. If you are average person, then go for 6 months. In matter of fact, even if you're able to get approval, and if you're new and you're kind of like some of these things I'm talking about not making sense to you just yet, then take time. Take time to learn the business. Imagine how each piece of the puzzle will work out. Maybe you need to take additional training. Maybe you need to meet with some more childcare center owners. Maybe you join some groups and engage with them and learn as much as possible. Okay, let's talk about insurance for a little bit, and we'll talk about business setup as well. This is a good time to bring that up. So another mistake I see is oftentimes the owners start out as a sole prop. Why? Because it's easy. You don't have to do anything. You already have a social security number. You can use that to set up a business, and that's it. They get started with that. There are two problems with that. Number one problem I have with that is now basically everybody knows your name all over the internet because you're doing business under your social. And second problem I have with that is that it doesn't provide any kind of protection. You're taking on a lot of liability, even if you have insurance. So what do I mean by that? Well, if let's say if you're an existing business owner and you already have an insurance, well, how much of insurance? Is it $1 million, $2 million, $5 million? What happens when a liability is above and beyond that amount? Especially, if you're taking care of a child, that liability can be huge. So very risky proposition if you don't have a proper asset protection structure in place. So when you come to us for a comprehensive consult for setting up a home-based childcare business, that's one of the things we go through. Like, how do you set it up in such a way that you can protect your other assets? Extremely important. Even if you're a homeowner and doing this business at your home. So entity setup in a particular way is extremely important. Now, how we set that up would depend upon how much assets you have, where those assets are, what other asset protection strategies you have in place. But I can tell you this much, that bare minimum, it's going to be an entity. More than likely it will be an LLC, but how we structure that LLC is, there's no point of talking about that because it's just so unique to each individual. Second part is, some of you guys watching this video right now maybe already have an LLC set up. Maybe you already um, went for a consultation. So let me ask you this: is that LLC even valid today? For example, did you file the BOI report? Do you have a proper operating agreement? Are you keeping track of minutes? I know some of you guys are going like, what are you talking about? And that's what I'm talking about, right? Most people don't know how to manage all this stuff properly, and they get into a lot of trouble because they're not doing it. All this insurance, all the entity, everything fails because nothing was done properly to begin with. Okay, so we go through all of those steps in the comprehensive consultation. You need to do proper record keeping. You need, and I'm not talking, and we'll actually, let's talk about the business expenses as well, but more importantly, from a childcare center point of view, immunization records, emergency contact, attendance log, all of those things needs to be properly maintained, not just digitally, but even manually. So that way, when somebody looks at it, it's easily available. But more importantly, let's say if some emergency happened, and let's say your internet is down or your electricity is not available that day, what are you going to do? You need to have that on paper. So we provide you an operating manual. Once again, it's a template that you use as part of your business, and then you can use that template to enhance on it. So these are the kind of things we talk about. How do you open your business? How do you close it? What kind of things you need to do in between? So you have all that information. So keep that in mind. One important point I will say: for every child that you take on, make sure you have the parent fill out what kind of allergies that kid has. Be very careful with allergies. That's a big one that a lot of people miss out. So once you have all of this basics, then what do? Well, you're ready to secure your home before so now you understand everything going on. So now secure your home, get the space ready, because what will happen is the moment you will apply for license, your property will get inspected. So you want to get the space ready. So let's talk about that. What kind of things you can do to get your space ready? Well, some simple stuff like fire extinguishers you need to have, smoke detectors, carbon monoxide detectors. All of that stuff needs to be up to the date. If you haven't paid attention to it for a while, maybe you need to update it. Maybe have an extra fire extinguisher, won't hurt. Make sure you have safe storage place for your cleaning supplies, medication, any other material. It needs to be locked, so where kids cannot reach it. Have that. Sometimes if you have a pool or something else, maybe it needs to be fenced off. Maybe you have stairs, maybe it needs a gate. So all of those kind of things that you need to do, and we'll provide you with checklists that we have, and that your state might have some regulations as well. So take a look at that and prepare how your property will look like. So those are the key things when it comes down to preparing for your inspection. So if you're ready to apply for your permit at this point, so before you go there, let me just repeat some of the things that I mentioned earlier. Make sure you have a proper entity set up. Make sure you have a proper business plan. Make sure you have an operating agreement. Make sure you have secured your home. Make sure it's fairly safe, and you already had a discussion with everyone who is going to do what. And if everybody's on board and you have a good space and you know that zoning allows it, you have permission from landlord if you're renting, then we're ready to apply for state license. And if you're ready, what you're going to need is you go to the state website, you're going to fill out your personal details. They'll probably ask you for a layout of your property. They might ask you if you have any kind of pool, ponds, or anything else that can be a problem for kids. They will probably ask you, do you have at least 2 exits? Some might even ask you for more, front and back, bare minimum. They will probably ask you for window sizes. They usually require you to have large windows. They want more openings for kids to be able to get out if there is fire or something else is happening in there. They'll probably ask you who else lives in the house, if there are any pets in there. They'll probably ask you for background check and all that kind of good stuff. You provide them all that information, and you just wait. They will, once they're ready, they will come inspect the property. They will look out for all the things that I just mentioned, and usually they will issue you a permit, typically within 3 months. Some even sooner. But don't be surprised if it takes longer, especially for your first unit. After the first unit, things become a little bit easier because you have some history with the city. You've already been paying taxes. There is some, there's some bonding that you're just expanding into a new facility, and then you are also better because you understand all those things. You have practical experience. If somebody asks you a question, you don't have to think twice. You're able to answer it right there, right then. So the second locations become so much easier. So those are the steps you're going to take to set up your business. I know a couple of you guys have questions. I'll take them in a second. I'm almost done, and after that, I'll take your questions. So one thing I want to talk about also is marketing. So marketing is something you learn once you start the business. But some things never change. Whether you're doing a home-based childcare or maybe in a professional facility, maybe you're setting up some sort of Montessori program or some sort of play school or some child play or something like that, some basic rules apply to all of us. So one of the major basic tools that you can use is start to promote your business as soon as possible. And as part of your operation guide that we're going to provide you with a comprehensive consult, it's going to have a lot of different ideas how you can promote your business. So that way you have something to do. Many times what happens is that clients come and they start wondering, okay, why is my business not growing? Why am I not getting sales? And they're not getting sales just because they're not doing enough activities. If they just do enough activities, they will start to get some business. Problem is they start doing activities after they have the permit, after they have spent the money on the facility, after they have everything set up. And now activities will result, but that will take some time, maybe another 3 months, maybe another 6 months. So that's where they kind of get demotivated that maybe they made a mistake. So I would like you to do this as soon as possible. So I'll give you more details about that when you give us a call and we talk about that. But I just wanted to share that with you as well, just in case you want to do it on your own. Okay, having that said, I'm happy to take your questions and yeah, just post them in your comments. Okay, how many kids am I allowed to have a childcare? Well, this will depend upon how big of a dedicated space that you can come up with. Different states will have different. I think in Texas you can have up to 10 kids. In California might be about 6. If you have a bigger space, they might allow you 12. So that, so let's say between 6 and 12 probably be the more reasonable from a home-based childcare center, and which is not bad. I mean, if you think about it, if you're charging $1,000 a child, some people are even charging more. That's $12,000 a month income. I mean, you can buy a house. You can buy a house and maybe hire somebody to take care of the kids, and that can pay for mortgage. Maybe you don't make any money. Maybe your goal is to build real estate. So you guys know, right? Favorite strategies I have is business and real estate. Business and real estate. And then from both of those, I leverage every single tax tool that is available in the tax code to build wealth. So business and real estate. So you can use those two together and build the business really, really fast. Okay, where do we go to learn about requirements in our state? Very simple. Just type in, home child care. Type in your state first. Like for example, California child care licensing, and do a Google search. Your state website will pop up, and you can go from there. On the state website, you'll probably also have some checklists, maybe some resources that state provides. Like, hey, these are the minimum requirements. But at the basic, you want to keep thinking, how do you keep the child safe? That's the goal at the end of the day. Do you provide marketing services? Okay, so we are a tax firm, so we don't provide marketing services for you, but we give you a guide. So the idea is we want to give you a business in a box. You take that, you take the template, and then you amend it. So you still have to do the work on your own, but at least you don't have to spend 3 or 4 months trying to figure all this out. We want to give you a good head start. Think of it like a training you would get if you were joining some sort of franchise program, except I think in the franchise program you'll get a little bit more hands-on approach. Here you will have some consultation calls, and then you will have some documents, some videos that you kind of follow along on your own. But like I said, at the bare minimum you will be talking to us for 5 to 10 hours discussing about your business anyways, so not that bad. All right, is this business still make sense? Look guys, I love this business. This is awesome. Look around in your community. I think there's a lot of demand for this. Find out, go to like one of those hospitals where kids are born and ask them how many kids are born in that hospital every single day. That'll kind of give you an idea as to how good, what kind of need there is for this kind of business. So I like it, but once again, depending upon which area you are in, you probably should do a little bit of research. Okay. Any other question, guys? Yeah, looks like all the same repeat questions. I hope this kind of answers everything. If you want to get hold of me, you want to talk more about that, your first discovery call is absolutely free. You just set that up, go on taxcodeadvisors.com, set up a discovery call, and just type in a comment that, hey, I want to set up a home child care center. And I'll jump on a call and I'll give you, more information about myself and what the program looks like and what are you going to get out of it. Let's just say you get into a program, you learn all this, and you don't start the childcare center. You can take this information, and most of it can be applied to some other business. Maybe not the marketing part, maybe not the operation part, but all the other skills are same. Maybe you do some other business, so they are transferable skills. And let's say you don't do business. Let's say you don't do any business. Still, I think you will discover so many strategies just to build wealth. So you will be better off after the consultation anyway. So anyhow, you guys have my number. Just go to taxcodeadvisors.com. I would love to have a chat with you. And like I said, discovery call is free anyway. So you can jump on that call, ask me any question you like. All right. Thank you so much for joining the call today. And I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.